Before today's episode, I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, and recognise their continued connection to the beautiful land and sea. I'd also like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and I extend this acknowledgement to the traditional owners of the land my listeners are on. Welcome to Ritual the Podcast, your cottage in the woods. A sacred space for the witches, the healers, the magical folk to meet and speak of wisdom, witchery, and old world magic, where people come to learn, to hear stories, to share secrets, and to be free to be their true selves. Welcome to Ritual. Hello, and welcome to Ritual. I'm Amy Harvey, and I'm sitting next to an extremely handsome man, and his name is Paddy Harvey.
Hello.
Hello. How
Hello
are
there.
you?
I am very well, thank you. How are you? It's wonderful to be married.
Aww. I'm good. Today is exciting.
Sure is.
It is, because we are here to talk about something that is currently happening all around us, but
Yes.
more specifically on May 1st.
More specifically on May 1st, that's correct.
And that is
Samhain.
Samhain. The next turn of the wheel is here. That went quick. I feel like we just had Mabon.
It feels like 2 weeks ago.
It was really fast. But anyway, here we are. So today we're going to dive into all things Samhain, what it is, how you can celebrate, tell some stories, all
Have
the
some
things.
tea.
Have some tea. Paddy's got a nice big cup of tea. What have you got, Paddy?
I have rooibos or rooibos. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I do know how to drink it, and it's delicious.
If you've never had it before, I highly recommend having it with honey and oat milk.
Wee bit of local honey and some oat milk. Delish. Local honey sounds a wee bit wanky, but it literally is.
It is.
Like it is. It's literally
local honey. We got it at a farmer's market.
We got it at a farmer's market the other day.
Anyway, so shall we dive in?
Let's dive.
So the wheel has turned and we find ourselves at Samhain, the witches' new year. Now, the reason why they call it the witches' new year is because long ago, the Celts chose to celebrate their new year at this point because the sun was at the lowest point as measured by the ancient standing stones in Britain and Ireland. So that is why they said it was their new year. And obviously over time it moved to the 1st of January. But it's not.
Right. Yes, of course. I was thinking about Stonehenge.
I thought immediately of Outlander.
So Amy's got this weird, I'm going to call it a fantasy.
It's not just me. It's basically every woman and man, maybe, in the world.
But she thinks that she's going to put her hands on some stones and she's going to disappear.
And see Jamie Fraser.
Jamie Fraser will be there.
One can only hope.
And it's really hard not to get offended by any of that.
Well,
but
look,
you know what? Again,
fate,
really great to be married.
It's meant to be.
What did you say?
I said, if it's fate, then it's just meant to be. So
you go marry that fictional character and I'll stay here in reality.
So Samhain translates to summer's end. And it is one of the most popular and well-known Sabbats because I feel like it is a time when magic and being a witch is like highly encouraged, because it really is a time to kind of like deep dive into your own magic, and it's kind of a bit more spooky with all the little bumps in the night.
It's kind of, I mean, obviously, you know, witches and Halloween, you know, which Samhain was obviously morphed into as a result of the Christianity. That wasn't anatomy, that was Christianity. It's kind of like the time for witches, right?
It's the time.
And it's also whenever all that sort of good work that witches do comes into good use as well.
Like what?
Well, the stuff that you're going to talk about tonight.
Are you jumping ahead?
It's yes,
Paddy. It's almost like you know what I'm going to say.
I had a little squizzy at your notes.
See, he's doing the thing where he pretends like he knows things because he's read it off my notes, and he's like, well, did you know? And he swoops in before I say it.
I've been to classes. I've learned the things.
Anyway, at this point,
sorry, my tea's very hot.
We are close to winter. The harvest is finished and the days are shorter and often growing colder. Nature itself has changed, and a lot of the beauty and life that we saw during spring and summer has started to fade. It was at this point as well that they used to slaughter all the animals in preparation for the winter, which is another reason why death is closely associated with Samhain.
Of course, because there's mass murder,
literal death.
And also, when you think about it, coming into winter, you're going to need a store of food, right? You're going to need furs and skins to keep you warm, or to bind your things and wrap things and things like that. And also on top of
to bang things,
bind. Like if you're like wrapping things up and
like
preserving
a beeswax wrap,
fixing your yurt, things like that,
or making one,
or making a yurt, and also on top of that is that there would be a scarcity of food, so you wouldn't necessarily be able to keep. You wouldn't. God. You wouldn't be able to necessarily look after and feed, because there'd be a scarcity of food. So you'd probably want to off a few.
Well, you want to keep the good breeders and the strong ones.
Yeah.
And the weak ones probably wouldn't make it anyway, because it was so cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at Samhain, the old god has now come to the end of his life, and the goddess. Why is that funny?
No, because I'm thinking about the story about the god and the goddess. Sorry, but you go.
Are you jumping ahead again? Oh my God. How unprofessional.
My apologies.
Anyway, the old god is dying and you're laughing at him. And the goddess, who is in her crone phase now, is mourning him.
The story behind that.
There we go.
And this is something that I've been told even by our teacher, who said it's kind of confusing, so don't try to really, I don't really understand it myself, so it's hard to sort of talk about, is that the goddess comes in mother, maiden, crone phases.
Yes.
And the god is her lover, her partner. She gets pregnant to the god. He dies. Then she gives birth
to him. It doesn't make any sense.
And then it's her son, but then it becomes
her lover,
who she then has gets pregnant to. He dies. She gives birth to him.
There's also, like, if you look at it in the cycle of how the Sabbats go, at one point she's like a maiden, and then she's like a crone or a mother, or she's meant to be pregnant, but she's like, I don't know. It's one of those things where you kind of just have to like roll with it.
Just accept it.
Just don't ask questions.
Just accept it.
It's better that you just
and move on.
Go with it. Death is all around us, as the veil between our world and the world beyond ours is at its thinnest. So this often means that communication with ancestors and people who have passed will be strong, and often lost souls can be seen wandering the streets, either towards their new realm or in search of something that they may have lost. This is also a time when you're able to commune strongly with things like the Fae or mermaids or any other kind of elementals that you may be connected to. And also deity work is often recommended at this time because, I mean, obviously the energy is stronger, the veil is thinner, but also messages are going to come through a lot stronger, and you'll also see a lot more like consistent synchronicities and things like that. So it's about being open to every kind of message, not just like a literal, like someone whispering in your ear. It could be you see the same bird every day that's not normally there. Like, it's not like you go to the beach and you see a seagull every day and you go, well, a seagull lives at the beach. So that's just stupid. But if like you were in a park that's not near the ocean and you saw a seagull, like that's kind of what I'm saying. It's like something that's a little bit out of the normal, but also something that comes through. Like, it could be you look at the clock at the same time every day with the same numbers, so maybe look into them, or the same song keeps playing on the radio, or you know, it's just like kind of being more aware that there may be someone who's trying to reach out to you in the only way that they really know how to do it. So you need to be open to all different ways.
What was that Miley Cyrus song that kept playing for you?
Yeah.
And it was something about dying, and you were like, I'm
yeah, what was that
what
song?
was that? But every time you turned the radio
it was
on,
always
it was always on. I just remembered that.
Yeah.
It's funny though, that's, you know, I did a course a couple of years ago, and there was a discussion about signs and symbols and whatnot, and sort of people just usually bringing it down to it's a coincidence, or that's weird, that applies to me, but does it really? Blah, blah, blah. And then the teacher said, well, what if you just had a day or a period of time where you just acknowledged them all as something and took them all on?
You said yes, it was a sign.
Yeah, and took it as this is a sign, or this is a form of guidance, or whatever it may be. And what she was saying that it can do is that it opens you up more. Because you're more accepting, you then become more open. Therefore, stronger signs and symbols then can contact you, and they'll resonate with you more. You have to work out what does and what doesn't. If you just kind of poo-poo everything, you're never really going to open up.
You'll just close yourself off even more. And then it's like, the more they say that the more spiritually aware you are and open, the more your light shines brighter. So it's almost like you become like a beacon for people who have passed, and they can see you amongst the sea of people, and they go, well, that person knows how to hear me, so I'm going to go to them. Almost like in a sixth sense, you know, they knew he could see them, so they went to him so he could communicate.
Unlike you
and like me, that happens to me and all kind of psychic medium people, because they're more aware and they're more open. But as soon as you go, nah, that's nothing, then it is nothing.
And that's why people who are really open, like if you look at Tyler Henry, good show,
great show,
he's obviously got people rushing for him, so he'd have to protect against getting overloaded and have sort of set boundaries.
Yeah.
Because if you're that open, you've got people coming to you all the time going, I can communicate through him, or I can talk to him, or whatever. I left my iron.
You wouldn't be able to go out in public, because imagine going into like a shopping center, you'd be like, holy shit, there'd be people everywhere.
Holy smokes. Yeah.
So in the Northern Hemisphere, Samhain collides with Halloween. So at the moment, they're going into Beltane, and we're in Samhain. So when we're in Beltane, they'll be going into Samhain on October 31st. And so Halloween does actually originate from the pagan Sabbath Samhain. Obviously now it's a little bit more commercialized, but they have very similar traditions that go back way back. For example, these days we see kids and adults fill the streets dressed in costumes, and they walk from house to house and they go trick-or-treating. But back in the day, the tradition was slightly different. So people would still dress in costume, but this was to help them blend in with the lost souls that were said to wander the streets. So people felt that if they dressed up as, you know, ghouls or ghosts or whatever, then the lost souls would confuse them themselves and the other lost souls, and then they wouldn't, I guess, harm them or bring them into wherever they were, or whatever they were fearful of. The lost souls would just be confused and they wouldn't know who they were. But also they were very fearful of fairies. There was a lot of superstition about fairies, a lot of fear about them. And again, they thought if they dressed up, knowing that the Fae would be out in full force during Samhain, that they would also get confused and not like they said to steal the children, and so the children would be safe.
Taking it a bit far.
Always for the kids, but yeah, so that's one of the reasons why they would dress up.
Right. And
they would also go door knocking, but not for the trick or treat reason that we do now. That people, children and I guess families would go door knocking, and they would offer to bless a person who is deceased. And in return, the family would pay them in a soul cake or a cookie that had a cross on it. And basically the idea is that they felt like the more blessings a loved one who had passed on, the less likely they would come back as a lost soul. And also it would remove them if they felt like they were stuck in purgatory. Right. So they like very, very superstitious back then. So the payment would be a soul cake. Right. And that's what trick-or-treating originally was. And now it's all about those sweet, sweet chockies. So
it's chockies, it's sweeties.
It's all the things, all the delicious things.
All the things that make your kid throw up.
Another tradition of Samhain is to pull pranks on people. And this was like a big deal back in the day. They used to call Samhain Mischief Night, and people like really took the piss of this. Their prank was to do things like set someone's fence on fire, or like just like really destructive things.
It'd be a great night to take vengeance on somebody and like just nick over to their house.
Yeah.
And
mischief knife.
Happy mischief knife.
Well, often,
mischief knife. Well, you probably have one of them as well.
Well, they said also that because the Fae were around and they would often do mischievous things, that people would just blame the Fae, but really they would kind of like,
again, sorry your fence is on fire.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
It was the
Fae.
Happy mischief knife. That was, for those who aren't watching this, that was a stabbing motion.
Oh my god.
Ow. Mischief.
Mischief night. Another thing that people would do, and they still do to this day, is something called a dumb supper. And it's also called feeding the dead. And the idea is that families or friends would gather together and they would all cook a Samhain feast. And then they would eat it, but they would do all of this in silence. So the cooking and the eating in silence. And the idea is that, I guess, by taking away that sense, well, it's not really taking it away, but by taking away the noise,
snuffing it out for a while, anyway.
you all your senses become heightened, and that if someone was to come in, you would be able to feel their presence and maybe hear them, or I guess, just sense them even more. So it's almost, I guess, like a little psychic activity to figure out if you'll pick up on something at the same time, or if you get the same person or whatever. But yeah.
And surely, you're in a house, everyone's kind of walking around. I mean, there'd still be noise, wouldn't there? There'd be clinking of plates. There'd be.
It would all seem so much louder though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but then you might hear
or like breathing, or maybe you would smell like their cologne or something that they had, or I don't know. I would love to like partake in that. I obviously not in our house because it would last about 23 seconds with our children.
That's like
make me feel boring.
It's like everyone has to be quiet. We're gonna have a dumb supper, and then go you're dumb. This is dumb.
Oh, did a fart.
Yeah. I done a fart.
I've done a fart. All of this is Noah, by the way.
Yeah, you don't know him.
That's how he talks. If you do something that does not please him, he goes, "Oh, you're making me feel boring."
Yeah.
Or you make me feel rude.
Why'd you rip up Poppy's picture? It was boring.
It was boring. And they did have a superstition as well with these dumb suppers.
I didn't at first get the name, but now I get it. Dumb as in not speaking.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it now.
Where they had the soul cakes that I was talking about before, because sometimes you would make these as an offering to give to whoever you like, an ancestor who you wanted to call in. And they said that if a mortal ate one, then they would be guilty of sacrilege and they would be condemned to an afterlife as a hungry ghost. So you were not allowed to eat those soul cakes.
What if it was an accident?
What doesn't matter?
And you can't be blamed for having accidents.
You
imagine one of the kids picks it up and they go, "That's it.
You're a hungry
You're
ghost."
hungry ghost. No!
Life was tough back then.
It really was, Amy. It really, really was.
Another tradition that they did was jack-o'-lanterns, which
yeah,
which I assume you know all
yes,
about,
I know
because
all about.
they originated in
Ireland.
Translation, that was Ireland.
I do know Jack-o'-lantern was originally from Jack of the Lantern, and when the Irish went over to America and there was a bit of a mass migration, I do know that the lantern was originally a turnip. And it was a carved turnip. If you actually look up turnip turnip jack-o'-lanterns from way back,
they'd be kind of freaky.
They're a bit creepy. But
have you seen the pictures of people's costumes and like masks from like back in the day? They were so freaky.
I know. And now it's like a nurse uniform or a schoolgirl uniform.
But like back in the day,
or like Buzz Lightyear.
It was like something your nightmares would show you.
Pretty creepy. It's like the old
potato sacks and
the old
spooky.
If you've ever seen the film The Strangers,
yes, yeah, it's like that.
Have you seen the old photos of the Easter Bunny? And
oh my god,
it's like this evil-looking rabbit.
Easter Bunny's coming.
The kids are going, and that was the threat. If you don't go to sleep, the Easter Bunny's coming.
It was like Krampus, but the Easter Bunny.
Anyway, so so when the Irish went over to America, I don't think there was a steady supply of turnips over there, and so the equivalent was pumpkin, and so they made them out of
easier to carve,
bigger, yes, and they would carve them out of that, and that became jack-o'-lanterns. That is what it's all about. And
do you know where it all originated from, or so they say? Do you know the story of Jack?
Jack of the Lantern.
Do you know his story?
No. Why? I think I've explained it enough. Jack of the Lantern, Jack-o'-lantern, America, pumpkins, turnips.
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
So he was known as Old Jack or Stingy Jack. And so basically, he was just meant to be this miserable, mean old man, kind of like very Scrooge vibes. And no one liked him and he didn't like anybody. And so one day he was sitting in the pub having a drink with the devil, as you do.
Just a regular Wednesday night.
Just chilling out,
right
watching
after
the
trivia.
Football, watching, just having a drink with the devil. And the devil said to him, "I will pay for your drinks, but in return, I want your soul." And being the stingy Jack that he was like, "Sure, that'd be great." And then, so the devil turned himself into a coin, which was going to pay for the drinks.
Mhm.
And before he could turn back, Jack put him in his pocket because he had a cross in there. And so the devil wasn't able to come back. And so the devil said, if you turn me back, I won't take your soul straight away. And so Jack agreed. The devil turned back and they both went their separate ways. And then a few years later, Jack runs into the devil by an apple tree.
That's
beautiful, beautiful scenery.
Where he hangs out.
And he said, hey, you, I want your soul. And Jack says, yes, but before you take it, I really want an apple. Could you climb that tree and grab an apple for me?
This guy's got some balls on him. Just saying.
But the devil says, sure. Of course I will.
Yeah.
I mean,
I got time.
I have a 2:30, but I could probably.
I got a soul extraction in 30 minutes.
And so he climbs a tree, and as he's in it, Jack draws a circle around the tree, and the devil is stuck and he can't get out. And so Jack says, I will let you free, but you are never to take my soul. And the devil...
He's a core negotiator, like, isn't he? Brilliant.
And the devil agrees, and off they go in their own separate ways. And then a few years later, Jack dies. So he goes up to the pearly gates, and they say to him, you have been a horrible person. You have been mean. You have been cruel. You have wasted the life that you were given, and you are not welcome here in heaven. You need to go downstairs to hell. And Jack goes, oh, okay, it's probably going to be a little bit awkward because I think
a wee bit more.
And so he goes down to hell, and the devil says, oh, I know you. Look, would love to have you. However,
we have no rooms.
However, I did make a deal that I was never allowed to take your soul. So sorry, but you are now stuck in purgatory. La La Land, no man's land. La La Land.
We're going to Los Angeles.
Yeah. And so Jack, he turns around and he's like, I can't even see where I'm meant to go. It's so dark. And so the devil gives him an ember from the fire of hell. He goes, you can have this. And so coincidentally, Jack had a turnip on him.
Good Irishman there.
And so he carved,
you always have to carry a turnip.
Just a backup turnip. And just in case turnip.
I just happened to be wearing my turnip pants at the time.
And he carved a lantern and put the ember inside. And so they say that on Samhain you can see Jack wandering the streets with his little turnip lantern. And that's why we do lanterns.
Wouldn't that be a really haunting sight to see?
Be so spooky.
Just a glow out in the distance.
Yeah. Again.
Move closer.
And
for those watching, by the way, if I keep closing my eyes whenever you're talking, it's because I have a very manic brain, and if I really want to concentrate, I will close my eyes to listen because I really want to pay attention. So that's my concentration face.
And if I keep yawning, it's because I'm really sleepy. Sorry.
That's kind of a standard thing, though. People closing their eyes while someone else is talking. I just don't care.
I thought we were sharing.
Okay. I'm afraid of the dark.
Oh, excuse me.
Pardon you.
So should we talk about how we can celebrate Samhain now? So let's start with some of our correspondences, and they are basically things that are connected with Samhain that can help you get into the spirit.
Yep.
So we'll start off with the colors. These kind of go without saying, but they are orange, black, brown, indigo, and red. Very Halloween-y colors.
And autumny colors.
And the colors of pumpkins.
Yes.
What food? It's always about the food. What food can we have? So apples is one of them. And they say that you can do divination with apples. I'm not sure if I've talked about this in the Mabon one, maybe. But they say that if you cut an apple in half, you can see if you're going to be married within the year, and then also see the initials of the person you're going to marry.
We should do that.
We should have some hope for the future.
Yep. Second time's a charm. 12 months to go.
So there's apples, there's baked potatoes, very Paddy.
Okay.
You like baked potatoes?
No one likes baked potatoes.
Yeah, but
why do you think Spud Bar exists?
You love potatoes the most in our family.
That's such a racially charged statement.
Aren't you Irish? Don't you love potatoes?
Oh, you guys love them.
You guys love potatoes.
Look, baked potatoes are delish.
But you actually, anytime I say to Paddy, what should we have for dinner? Like, I'd say 9 times out of 10, he goes, do you want baked potatoes?
Yes, and we have them 3 times a year because of you. And you're crushing my dreams.
I don't want to hear it.
You have a thing against mashed potato, and I have a problem with that. So I enjoy them, and I make very, very good mashed potatoes. The best, I would say.
I guess what I was saying about
and in the 12 years we've been together, I've had mashed potatoes twice.
I've made them for you.
I'm not gonna make them while you sit and judge my food.
I'm not judging. I just don't enjoy it. It's not you making it. It's just I don't like mashed potatoes.
Well, I don't want to make mashed potatoes.
Anyway, this is a discussion we'll have to have.
We'll have time. This offline. Thank you.
Fruit cake, nuts, pumpkin pie, which is delicious.
We would get nuts at Halloween in Ireland when we'd go trick-or-treating.
Oh, really?
We would be given, we call them monkey nuts, so like nuts in the shells. So when we'd go to people's houses.
Why monkey nuts?
Because monkeys ate them.
The Irish monkeys?
Fact check that for me. Someone, I don't know if that's really true.
Are they elephants?
I just want to say, I'll come on this podcast, right? And I won't prepare. I'll just kind of
do zero research.
I'll just riff. You know, whatever comes out. It might be
fact.
It might be just something I kind of remember. It'll always have an element of truth in it for me because that's what I believe. But monkey nuts, and we get copper coins, so like 1 and 2 penny coins, and then sweeties as well. Yeah, like you'd go to the supermarket at Halloween, and there'd be just bags and bags and bags of nuts because people would give them out at that time.
That's healthy.
Big
it would be a extreme COVID no these days.
But they're in the shell.
I guess.
You break the shell.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, please continue. Over to you.
What else? Corn, bread, ale, cider, herbal tea, and cakes for the dead. And something that I actually picked up on, which is probably like extremely obvious, but I only just like clicked with this, that all these foods are ones that have been harvested and stored away. So it's kind of like they're using what they have created throughout summer, winter, and it has been stored in the autumn, and now they're starting to use them. Like all the dried things or the long lasting like potatoes and whatnot.
And cider. Because it would have been fermented by now.
In Mabon, yeah.
Potatoes aren't long lasting.
In the dark they are, aren't they? Or is that pumpkins?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I need to
stop talking about potatoes all the time. You're obsessed
with potatoes. I swear he's obsessed.
I told you.
It's a sick obsession. It's literally not
ruining this
marriage. We have
marriage.
potatoes like once a month. Like,
where's my apple?
I'm gonna cut that open. I'm gonna find out who I actually belong to.
So some crystals that you can use are all the black ones. So things like black tourmaline, black obsidian, they're good because of their protective qualities. Spirit quartz, clear quartz.
What's spirit quartz?
I actually saw spirit quartz like a few hours ago, and it's really pretty. It's like I've never used it, so I wouldn't be 100% sure of the properties, but it's like this one was like a amethyst quartz, spirit quartz, so it was like almost like a pinky purple and really spiky. It was really cool. I'll show you a picture. Clear quartz, which is good because it's good at helping you connect with your intuition, but also it's an amplifier, so it's good to work with every other crystal that I've just mentioned, because it will just kind of like boost its magic. Bloodstone, carnelian, and smoky quartz.
Smoky quartz.
Smoky quartz.
I like smoky quartz. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice. It's very grounding.
I like it. I just like looking at it. I think it's beautiful. It's like coffee stained clear quartz.
Yes.
Do you keep seeing movement over there?
No, I thought I had a smoky quartz on the table. But do you?
I think it might just be that shadow.
Or the cat. She is the
night.
She's a black cat. She is the cat of the night.
She is.
So some herbs and incense that you can use. There's a few, so I'll kind of like storm through these. Things like apple dittany, which is connected with Hecate. Cinnamon, heather, oak leaves, pumpkin, sage, straw, mistletoe, evergreen, rosemary, mugwort, which is amazing at opening your third eye. Allspice, frankincense, myrrh, wormwood, bay, sandalwood, patchouli, and peppermint.
So there's a few then.
There's a few. One fun fact, was it last Samhain or the one before? We made a tea out of mugwort and wormwood. It was literally the worst thing I've ever had.
It was putrid.
It was like we drank dirt, but like old dirt.
Bad dirt, like not good dirt.
Not like the premium soil bag from Bunnings, like
not like
cheap
Jamie
one.
Oliver's garden dirt. Like that would taste.
It was horrible.
It was like, they just found a bunch of dead bodies in the dirt, and then everyone went, let's make tea out of that.
Ooh.
It wasn't good.
We took, I think, one sip and we're like, nah, I can't do it. Because the idea was that we were doing like divination, and it's meant to induce like prophetic visions and open your third eye and all that. And all it did was induce me wanting to throw up.
It was pretty horrible.
It was gross.
Yeah.
The animals associated with Samhain are very obvious ones, but things like black cats, ravens, owls, bats, and dogs. Altar decorations include acorns, which I love. I think acorns are so cute.
Yeah, they have little hats.
They're little hats.
And
little fairy drinking cups.
You can take them off and put them on and draw a face on the acorn.
Yes.
You can say, hello. And take his little hat off.
And apples, black candles, brooms, carved pumpkins, which we've talked about, a cauldron, autumn leaves, photos of ancestors, which is a big one, pomegranates, and skulls.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what are some of the things that we can do at Samhain, you may be asking?
I am.
What could they be? The big one is divination. One of my absolute favorite things to do. Divination is, I actually saw a really good way of like spelling it out, saying that there was 3 different reasons why you would do it. So the idea of divination is to gain knowledge of the future, to gain information about the past and its effect on the future, or to seek confirmation for something that you may be experiencing in the present. So basically you're using whatever form you choose to gain wisdom, and you can do this by connecting it in with an ancestor, a guide, a deity, whoever, and they almost like speak to you through your chosen form. So forms of divination include things like tarot cards, oracle cards, runes, tea leaf reading, also known as
tassegraphy.
Very good.
For those playing
scrying. So you can do scrying in things like a crystal ball or a black mirror or a bowl of water.
So with the mirror stuff, black mirrors, can you see your own reflection, or is it like it a darkened mirror?
I have never done that form of scrying before. I would actually really like to, because I've heard it can be quite powerful. So I'm not 100% sure of how much. I mean, I think when you're doing it, you do it in a darker room as well. So
it kind of, I don't know if anyone's ever done this, but I know, I've obviously I've heard people doing it, but I've done it, and it kind of weirds me out a bit. Is if you look into a mirror at yourself for an extended period of time, you start to see things start to happen to your face twitches or moves, and it kind of it makes me almost feel a bit uncomfortable, where you have to kind of snap yourself out of it.
Well, that's the idea of scrying, is to get into that kind of headspace.
Maybe it's something that I need to give another crack to, but I just know that I don't know, it just always made me feel a bit strange.
It is a bit confronting, because I think it's like in your personal space as well. Like the next one is mirror gazing, and so that's like basically sitting almost in a room of mirrors and like focusing on them, and people say that you start to see visions around you, or like apparitions.
But you're not looking at yourself in that. They're kind of tilted, or if it's one or many, but it's tilted away.
So I think
you don't see your own reflection, but you're looking at the mirror.
Yeah. So I think it can be a bit confronting, because it's like in your personal space, and
you're in a dark room as well.
But I think it would be really cool. Wax reading, also known as chiromancy, which I think would be cool in Samhain as well, because if you burn the candle, you can see what messages come through using that Samhain energy. Palmistry, a pendulum, which is fun. I like using a pendulum. Numerology and automatic writing, which is really fun.
I've experienced your automatic writing before.
So
you explain what it is first.
So automatic writing is basically you go into a meditation, and often you should connect again with like a guy. Like, for example, I connect with Hecate when I do it. And so you go in either with like a question, or asking for wisdom, or just general advice or whatever. And you have this meditation with that intention, and then you kind of like, when you feel the pull, you kind of slip out of it, but you're kind of in between both states. So you're like here, but not really here. Like you wouldn't like go straight on your phone. You would stay in that place. And so then you get a journal and you just start writing, and you may think that you're just writing down, like you're making up the thoughts, but you just write down literally everything that comes into your head. And then often when you've come out of the meditation, you'll look at what you've written and you have no memory of it. Like it just isn't you. Like when I do mine, it's not even in my handwriting. It's like completely different. It's like written like how I don't even speak. And I don't really remember writing any of it down. And so it's just doing stuff like that. And sometimes it takes a little bit of work, because you do have to like have that trust. And as soon as you start to doubt it, you come in and that connection's kind of broken. So it does take a while and a bit of practice, but often some really cool messages come through.
I have first-hand experience at seeing you after doing automatic writing, and it is very bizarre to read, because obviously I know what Amy's handwriting looks like, and the handwriting's not the same. It's just different. And also even just the pattern of the writing You know how people sort of write in a certain pattern. But some of the stuff's really beautiful and it's really like poetic. And I'm not saying that you're not poetic, but it just comes out in this different voice than yours. And the first time I read it, I was so confused by it because it felt like somebody else had written it, which was pretty cool, but also
it's a bit of a mind trip when you see the style of writing and you're like, that is not how I write.
Yeah.
But it is pretty cool. So with the divination, the one bit of advice I would give is to find the preferential way that whoever. So what you probably won't see is that we just stopped for about 5 minutes because Paddy had a violent leg cramp attack.
It was right in my hamstring.
He disturbed Norman, who was sleeping peacefully behind us on the floor,
I'm so sorry.
and he moved him, which is sacrilege.
It was a very
I'm
aggressive.
actually more upset about Norman, to be honest.
That's again really hard to digest that. It was a very intense hamstring cramp, and every time it went away, it came back again stronger than the last, and I had a wee bit of a freak out. And now we're back and we're calm.
Samhain. Now, the one bit of advice I would have for doing divination is that it's about finding, it's like, especially if you're trying to connect with somebody, is finding their preferred way of communication. So what I mean by that is, like, before we went through the list of, there's like tea leaf reading, runes, blah, 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 blah. So sometimes, so I'll use myself as an example. I work closely with Hecate, Bridget, and Aphrodite. And what I used to do is I would like do a reading and call them in, and I would do tarot cards. And I'd get these like really jumbled messages that made absolutely no sense, or they really like kind of contradicted each other, or it'd be nothing. Like it wasn't even for me. And I kind of got the sense that it was like, no, if you want to talk to us, then you talk to us individually. Like, you don't talk to us in a group. Like, you know, do you know who we are? But we don't want to talk to you like that. So what I did is I gave them their own oracle deck each. So for Hecate, it's like a Fiona Horn one. For Aphrodite, it's this beautiful mermaid one that Lucy Cavendish has done. And then the Bridget one is, I think it's called like Mists of Avalon. And so now whenever I communicate with them, they have their own channel. And the more that you practice with that, the stronger the connection gets. So what I mean for you then is, just say you wanted to connect with Freya, well, then maybe runes would be more appropriate because that's got that Norse link. But then maybe if it's like you're connecting with an ancestor and you know they really love drinking tea, like maybe they would be more, they'd come in like stronger doing tassigraphy. So it's like sometimes you need to like play around with them and see which one has got the strongest connection. But then once you're tuned in, you can always go back to that. And then like every Samhain you've got that, but then even in between you have that channel of connection with them, which is kind of fun.
That's really nice as well. My granda really like tea. Maybe we'll do some tea.
We should. That'd be fun.
Like really, really love tea.
How could you not?
Yeah, it's pretty delicious.
So another thing that you can do at Samhain is to light a candle. And I think this is always a really beautiful thing to do. You can either have a candle at your table, almost like an invitation to join. But people would traditionally put the candle in the window, and it would be almost like a welcome to either like an ancestor or even just a lost soul who was looking for company, and the light would mean you're welcome. Yeah.
See, and I've heard as well, and again, I'm just riffing here. No, but this is actually something I've been told, that there are people who put an unlit white candle at their door as a way of saying, stay away. Like,
you're not welcome.
We don't want you here.
Interesting.
Because I know, like, at Christmas in Ireland a lot, people would put candles in their front window, and that was I don't even know if that's any sort of spiritual thing. It was more just way back. People would put a candle in their window to say, hey, it's winter, it's cold outside. If you need a place, knock the door, and
that's
you know,
nice.
you'll come in and have a hot meal, whatever. Like, and but that's obviously for Christmas. But so you're saying lit candle in the window is welcome, and that obviously why this story, you know, rings a bell with me, is that the unlit candle is, we don't really want anyone here.
We're not keen.
We're not
on
interested.
A ghost today.
Yeah, we just want to have dinner,
watch
the Avengers, and just
just chill.
We just want to chill. It's been a rough week. I'm not in a ghosty mood. I just want a bit of peace. Have you put the white candle out there? Don't light it. I'm not in the mood. I'm having a hot bath.
Excellent. It's a windy night.
Snuggles. That's right.
Another thing is having a Samhain feast, which I'm all for, because it means there's a whole bunch of delicious food.
We do that.
And for your feast, it is suggested that you set a place at the table for a family member who has passed, or a friend, so that they can join you for dinner. And also it could be just, again, for maybe a lost soul who's looking for a little bit of company, and they know that they are welcome to join you for dinner. And that's where you would also put your soul cake as an offering, or a candle. I think it's kind of nice to do that.
Yeah. If anyone heard recently the Ritual podcast with Sarah, the Witch Apprentice, you would know that every Sunday Sarah sets a place for
George Michael.
And so she does it every week, not just on Samhain. And, you know, in the words of the great man, you gotta have faith.
You do.
You gotta, like, have faith. And we set a place. We put out some things from people that have passed that we don't mind if they come in as well. And I think it's nice. I think it's nice. And if you've ever watched the film Coco, the Pixar film, you know, the whole story of that was that, you know, you on the Day of the Dead,
we always forget
Dias de los Muertos.
Yes. Good one.
Is that you remembering the dead? You
celebrate
them, and you keep their spirit alive. And in Coco, the guy was forgotten about, and then and then they kind of drift off because nobody remembers them. And it's such a, I think it's really important that we remember people who have passed away.
Keep the spirit alive.
And that's why it sounds a really beautiful time as well. I mean, obviously, you know, there's the spooky side of it, but it is actually a really nice time as well. It's a good time to sort of remember and reflect and
celebrate them.
Yeah, exactly.
Another thing, and I kind of touched on it before, but it was about connecting with a deity, because obviously the veil is thin, the energy is high, and if you are wanting to do spell work, then having someone like that would be a really good, I guess, ally to have. So, I mean, you can really connect with anybody who you feel drawn to, but I would probably suggest somebody like Hecate. She is the goddess of the witches and also goddess of the underworld. She's keeper of the keys between this world and the next. So if you're wanting to, you know, connect with a lost soul, she'd probably be a good one to talk to. She can be a little bit tricky when you're first connecting with her. She sends you in a little maze, but
I say like I know what I'm talking about. I'm going off Amy's stories.
My stories. But once you establish that connection, she's pretty cool. Don't be scared of her. She's just powerful but she's cool to work with. Another one along those that vein is the Morrigan. Again, another one who is known for her no nonsense approach. She kind of gets seen in like a dark energy, but I haven't worked with her, but one of my close friends is very much connected with her. And I know that once you kind of form a strong bond, you get a lot from it. I mean, you have to give a lot, but she's a good one to work with. Who else? I think the idea is that because they say the goddess is in her crone phase, connecting with a goddess who has the ability, like a triple goddess, who has the ability to be either in the maiden, mother, or crone, and connecting in with the crone energy, because that's often when you get a lot of wisdom and they have more knowledge of death, and that's kind of like the vibe you're going for at that time. So I would try and find a crone phased goddess, but again, whoever you're called to. And then the last thing for Samhain, and this one is probably going to be one of the most personal ones, or personal things to do, is shadow work. Shadow work is something that is suggested that you do at this time. I guess going into winter as well, you go a bit more internal. But the idea of shadow work is embracing the parts of yourself that are not your ideal self, the things that, you know, like the things that trigger you, the things that make you uncomfortable, the parts of yourself that can be a bit darker. It's about kind of diving into them a bit more and understanding why they're there, which can be very confronting. But so I guess the thing is, if there's something that you know triggers you a lot, and they're the things where you go, I don't want to talk about it now, I'll deal with it later, and it just is something that is a continuous thing that always seems to come up, and you push it away, you don't want to deal with it. Shadow work is about embracing it. So rather than going away, you almost take a step closer and figuring out, like sitting in that feeling of frustration or anger or whatever it may be, and figuring out what the trigger is and why it's there. Because once you figure out what it is, it kind of loses its power and its grip over you, and you're able to overcome it. So a good analogy would be, you know, when you're a child and you are in bed and you see this shadow, and to you, it's a monster who wants to eat you. And every night you're petrified of this shadow, and you hide under your blanket and you're thinking of all the horrible things it's going to do to you. And so shadow work would be you taking off the blanket, standing up, knowing that it could be under the bed and it could grab you by the ankles. But then you walk forwards towards where the light switch is, even if your legs are shaking and you're so uncomfortable and terrified, and then turning on the light switch, and then you see that the shadow is just a coat, and that's all it was. And then it's not a monster anymore. And so every night from then on, you'll see that shadow and you go, it's just a coat. And it has no power.
It's something that a lot of people don't want to do, and it's
uncomfortable
because it's hard to do it. But it is really important. I kind of think about it sometimes as in, if you look at if you've a family member, close friend, partner, whatever it is, and you've had, you know, some real bad shit go on, real bad drama, a lot of people love to sweep it under the rug and just go, let's just move on. And it's really important in that, and this is just, again, it's kind of an analogy of it, is to sort of say, no, let's acknowledge it, let's go back and let's actually go through it step by step by step and acknowledge what happened and learn from it, and actually come out of it and say, right, in future, what are we going to take from this situation? We're going to take that and that. It's like, you know, maybe you love you get so frustrated with yourself because every Saturday and Sunday, I really want to do this for myself. I really want to do that for myself. I really want it for walks at 6 a.m. And then you don't do it. And you don't do it. And then you get frustrated that you don't do it.
Make excuses.
And you know that because Friday night after work, you love having a few glasses of wine and maybe it prevents you from getting up early. But you don't want to admit that to yourself because you go, no, it's fine. It's just because I'm tired or whatever. It's actually facing up to it and going, maybe I shouldn't do that because I will feel that. And that's just such a minimal thing. Shadow work goes much deeper and deeper and deeper. It's toxic traits and
more toxic emotional things.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it could be stuff like that too.
Just surface stuff. It's like admitting stuff to yourself that you don't want to admit.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it could be something day to day, or it could be why do I do that with people? Why do I even push people away? Why do I react in a certain way?
Why does this make me so angry? Why does that person always like really make me feel shit about myself?
And it's funny because when you're confronted with the truth about yourself you don't like, you tend to just go,
that's what I mean. I don't want to talk about it now.
But you turn it towards yourself and you look at it and you stare it right in the eyes. And it's hard. And it's why people don't tend to either like doing it or people tend to not do it. They avoid it.
It's very confronting and very uncomfortable. But again, it's taking the power away from that monster. So in future, it's like it might not even disappear. The monster might stay there, but you've seen all its cracks and, it's all its problems. And you can go, well, I can live with you. I know you're not going to harm me. I know I just have to like be around you. I get you now. And
things are always more confronting the first time you confront them.
Fear of the unknown.
And then after a while you just kind of go, well, I've got to work out why I'm such a dick. And then it becomes,
why am I such a psycho?
Normal practice. We try to do that whenever we have arguments. Not that we ever argue, of course.
Oh, never. Two Leos would never argue. Perfect
relationship. But kind of going over reasons why things happened and why you do certain things. And it's important. It's hard, but it's important.
Yeah.
It's good. Good times, man.
But yeah. So that's Samhain.
That's Samhain
in a nutshell. There's so much to it. Like I could literally have gone on for hours and hours because there's just so many traditions and origins, and every culture does something, same but different. And I had to just pick a few next year.
Yeah. Well, you did a great job, Amy.
And so did you.
And I'm really grateful that you bring me on here because I get to have a wee chat with you.
I know.
And
it's fun.
I get to learn a wee bit as well. And I get to reinforce things that I've already known. And I get to have a wee chat as well.
And just tea.
And a wee cup of tea.
Well, yeah. So thank you for listening. I hope that you guys all have a really beautiful Samhain and do something magical. And I hope that maybe you learned something here today that has encouraged you to go and do something new or something that you've always wanted to do. And
Amy, where can people find you?
Oh my God, what a good question.
While we're here on the topic of that.
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook under Wick and Sage.
Wick and Sage.
Yep. Or you can, if you want to watch this interview rather than listen, you can jump over to YouTube and you'll see us. Hello. You can watch us there, and that is under Rose Thorn Cottage, Thorn with an E.
Yeah.
And also
Rose Thorn Cottage.
If you want to support me and the show, you can jump over to Patreon, and we also have a whole bunch of like magical stuff going on there. We've got some extra podcast episodes and just fun stuff. So you can find me there.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
And you can find me on
Paddy's on Instagram. I'll put his link.
Find me
because he has the most random Instagram page. It might see, like, I look at mine and I have like such a plan for it, and then I look at Paddy's and I go, what are you doing? It doesn't make any sense.
Don't look at me on Instagram, all right?
I'll link him below.
I help me get to 1,000 followers. No, I was joking. It's very irregular and weird. Not weird. It's not weird. It's just
It is a bit weird.
There's no pattern. Because I just
look at who Paddy is as a person.
I find things, thank you, amusing or sad or beautiful, and I put them up. And that's it. But
it'll be an eye-opening experience.
It's not that bad. My gosh.
It's really not that bad.
It's not that bad. But
I'm talking it up so people follow you.
No,
okay?
I don't. That's fine. I'm fine for that. Thank you. It's very, very lovely of you, Amy. And it was a pleasure to meet you again. And thanks again for having me.
Thank you for being here. And we will see you. Well, we won't. I will see you before, but I'll see you back at Yule.
I'll see you back at Yule.
You'll be back then. Get it?
Just end it. end the podcast.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.